Good morning. My name is Maureen Loman, and I will be presenting the final briefing on behalf of my team and advisor, Professor Aggarwala, regarding our spring workshop project, the restructuring of the governance and financial regimes of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, the MTA, and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. I'll start off today's presentation with a reintroduction of our client and the scope of the project. We'll revisit the diagnoses of the problems at hand and go through the analysis that has taken place since then. I'll address the key takeaways and what our findings mean for the future management of these transit systems. The Regional Plan Association is America's oldest urban research organization, working to improve the quality of life of the tri-state metropolitan region. For 90 years, the RPA has been a vital source of ideas for urban policymakers. They've produced 3 landmark plans for the region and begun work on a 4th plan that will tackle issues such as urban transit. And this is where our group comes in. The tri-state region is home to 2 of the world's largest transportation networks, the MTA and the Port Authority. The well-being and efficiency of these systems is crucial to the region's prosperity, economic health, and more so in recent decades, environmental sustainability. However, both of these systems face many challenges. In light of recent events, including the Bridgegate scandal and the Metro North derailment, a deep analysis to understand their complexities is essential in even beginning to understand how we can help strengthen them. The MTA provides public transportation for around 1/3 of the entire transit-using population of the United States. While currently the MTA operates as a public service rather than a profit-generating system, its financial structure is weak. Its reliance on taxes, subsidies, and borrowing has led to prioritizing repayment over the much-needed investments to improve system infrastructure. Having previously researched other large transit systems, we wanted to find out what works and what doesn't work around the world. We are drawn to the recent switch of control in London. Transport for London's experience suggests changing responsibility could be a successful route towards institutional revitalization. This incentivized a closer look at how a similar setup could be adopted by New York City's MTA. But how is this switch even beneficial? A smart business approach and a strong internal framework reduces debt and facilitates change. The prospect of such a switch has turned up on many political agendas in recent years, as it is being recognized that putting local divisions of the MTA under control of the mayor of New York City could eliminate some difficulties caused by the current setup of bi-state governor control. So, why is this necessary? Is it even economically feasible? What it boils down to is those that use the MTA and care about it are not those who control it. We present a financial scenario if mayoral control were to happen, which entails finding out who uses the MTA entities and who actually pays for it. Here are ridership breakdowns of the subway and Long Island Railroad. Blue sections indicate New York City residents, and the orange represents non-New York City residents. It's clear that local transit is mainly used by New York City residents, while the commuter rails are not. This ridership calculation was used to estimate ridership from outside of the city in order to estimate tax revenue from the suburbs that would be lost due to a shift in control of local entities. Splitting the MTA between local and commuter entities would entail a reformation of current funding structures. Having looked at relevant taxes, including payroll, mortgage, and sales tax, it's clear that their distribution is not currently equitable given the ridership. While city residents are paying less, local entities are getting a much higher allotment than commuter rails. If we want mayoral control to occur, we would need to adjust how much the suburbs actually contribute. A fare hike could be a reasonable compensation. Our calculations show an increase of 73 cents would be necessary. This is a compelling analysis, but with the MTA already in such financial deficit, legitimizing the costs and trade-offs will not be easy, and further valuation is necessary. These 2 analyses, ridership and tax distribution, prove that mostly the city uses the MTA buses and subways, and this should influence subsidy distribution. Representing the highest amount of MTA ridership, almost 80% of riders of the subway are New York City residents, while only 54% of the subsidies are from New York City. These pie charts should ideally be mirror images, but they are not. further supporting our hypothesis that local entities should be under city control. Though New York State may not willingly give up this control, reallocation of taxes could incentivize the switch and lead to a re-evaluation of fare prices. Inspired by the success of Transport for London, we conducted a conceivability analysis to address financial and demographic impacts of a shift in control of local transit entities. Our findings show this makes financial sense and could eliminate problems arising from current joint control. Ultimately, putting the buses and subways under mayoral control could improve ridership experience, reach service that is in a state of good repair, and allow for reinvestment in infrastructure. Significant change is needed, and mayoral control seems like a likely candidate to prompt it. While our workshop project was originally devoted to the financial and governance regime of the MTA, an incident regarding the George Washington Bridge, otherwise known as the Bridgegate scandal, sparked curiosity regarding the regime of the Port Authority, leading to this portion of the project. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey is a bi-state agency that oversees much of the region's transportation infrastructure. It was created in 1921 to overcome interstate rivalry and increase investments in transit by operating outside the constraints of politics. While it has no power to levy taxes, it generates revenue through the collection of tolls, fares, and rents from its various divisions. Despite its original anti-political purpose, the recent Bridgegate scandal highlights how much of a political entity the Port Authority really is, driven largely by two key issues. First, the entity is shared and led by two states, leading to deviations from the original mission. Secondly, easy access to huge revenues and shielded decision-making from political oversight allows for underperformance. Our analysis examines the operational divisions within the Port Authority to determine efficiency in comparison to their peers. While the Port Authority may appear profitable, this chart makes it clear that there is massive cross-subsidization occurring between those divisions with high incomes and those with high loss. We chose 4 divisions to benchmark out of 6 total: the path, seaports, airports, and bridges and tunnels. Today, we'll touch on those most unprofitable, the path and port commerce, as well as the seemingly profitable JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark airports. Starting with the path, we can see that compared to other transportation options for traveling between New Jersey and New York City, the cost to ride the path is substantially smaller. Here we see how much higher operational expenses are compared to the subway, PATCO, a New Jersey speed line, and SEPTA, the Pennsylvania Transit Authority, depicting that the path operates inefficiently and at a loss. The Port Authority uses money from other divisions to keep the fare low, and again emphasizes the flaws of such strong cross-subsidization. The Seaports Division of the Port Authority, Port Commerce, is responsible for overseeing shipping facilities. By comparing it to ports of a similar size, we can gauge efficiency. Highlighted in orange, we see that it is earning 1/2 to 1/3 as much income per cargo revenue, suggesting that it is ineffective at capturing revenue from cargo handling. Interestingly, the amount of cargo actually going through Port Commerce on average per year, the orange triangles, is high in comparison to other East Coast ports, indicating that low volumes are not the source of loss. The Port Authority operates 6 airports in total. Here we focus on JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark. We know that these airports are quite profitable and account for a large portion of the Port Authority's net income. However, these airports have very high expenses per enplanement, or passenger boarding. In conjunction with their high contractual expenses, this suggests that there is operational inefficiency despite their high profits, and that better financial management could project even higher profits for the airports division. Furthermore, JFK and Newark are clearly underinvesting in the infrastructure of their airports, as depicted here. Their investments per enplanement, the darker shaded bars, are the lowest in our comparison, and actually in the negative. Not so oddly enough, these numbers show a slight correlation to customer satisfaction scores, the lighter shaded bars, from a J.D. Power and Associates study. This represents a discrepancy with customers' opinions of the quality of these airports and how much the Port Authority is actually choosing to reinvest in them, again, despite high profits. From our division benchmarking, we learned that the path is not proving financially efficient, with its high expenses and low fares. Port Commerce and its lack of economic superiority among peers suggests that the current business model does not allow for effective capture of revenue. Thus, it runs at a loss. We can see that the airports are indeed profitable, but their lack of proper reinvestment leads to public disappointment. Overall, the Port Authority has deviated away from being a transparent and depoliticized agency, and instead become the shared tool of two state governors. Without the profitable divisions, airports and bridges and tunnels, to subsidize the non-profitable divisions, the path and port commerce, the Port Authority would be insolvent. Withstanding a fluctuating political climate and economy, along with recent current events, this agency needs to take action towards internal restructure to ensure necessary high-quality performance. All in all, we have come to identify that the MTA and the Port Authority face challenges that could be overcome with some insightful restructuring of their governance and financial regimes. There is much more research to be done, but we do hope that our collaborations with the RPA will help lead to the implementation of necessary changes in these vital transit systems. Thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yes. Okay. I was wondering if you had looked at any examples of subway fare increases and whether you see a decrease in ridership, or if people just kind of take it and the ridership stays the same.
That's actually not something we looked into specifically, like how customers react. But I mean, in a city like New York, people will be upset, people will throw fits, but when it comes down to it, they will ride the subway no matter what. So that's what it kind of comes down to.
Other questions? Oh, over here.
Good job, Maureen. I was just wondering, previous mayor Bloomberg wanted to use congestion pricing as a way to finance the MTA as well as inner city mass transit infrastructure. But what is Mayor de Blasio thinking? And this is just something I've read in passing that he's thinking about tolling all the bridges. Are you aware of any plan in the mayor's office?
Not specifically with de Blasio's transportation initiatives. I think that's on the back burner for now for him. But congestion pricing has been on the political agenda for years now and still has not passed. So perhaps with a switch in control, the mayor would actually have more say in that. But at this point, I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon.
One more question if there is. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so here we are at the end of this process. First, I want to thank the faculty for doing what I believe was an excellent job in guiding the group, so let's give them a round of applause. And I want you to think a little bit about yourselves and the process that you've just come through. One of the issues in the kind of education that you are finishing up right now is that you are multidisciplinary problem solvers, and the set of skills that you have may not be as apparent to you as they are to the faculty, or they will be to your employers, or as you will come to see them over the next several years. So let me just alert you to some of the things you know how to do that many of you didn't know how to do the day after Memorial Day of last year. And one of those things is to come together in a group setting to solve problems that are poorly structured and to some degree you don't even understand. So the step in policy analysis is called cutting the problem down to size. And every group here took what was a fairly general and vague set of instructions and focused it on something that a dozen or so people could work on for a semester and make progress in. You drew on a large number of skills. First, your understanding of environmental science and policy from the summer and from other parts of the curriculum, but also your ability to work together, to work to a schedule, to produce outputs, to communicate with each other, to communicate with your colleagues. All of those kinds of skills you're going to see. You're going to look around yourself at workplaces when you leave here and realize you know how to do things that almost nobody else knows how to do. And I often hear from alums that tell me how surprised they were that their colleagues coming from other public policy and business schools don't know how to do some of the things that they know how to do. So you sometimes don't think about it, but when a problem's thrown at you, you start to think of, okay, how do I get a handle on it? What are the deliverables? What's the work plan? What are the kinds of skills that we need to address these problems? Where do I get those skills? I don't have all of them myself, so I need to I need to find some people with it. I'm strong in one thing, other people are strong in other things. We need to figure out how to work together. That's the heart of what this curriculum does, and the workshop over these 3 semesters is where we try to bring those things together and help you develop your problem-solving skills. Everybody that goes to this program becomes a problem-solving professional. You really do understand how to get your arms around these problems. And a lot of the curriculum, you know, we're in the workshop where we, to some degree, in the summer and the fall, we kind of throw very specific outputs at you. Then we get to this semester, we say, okay, you design the outputs, you develop the schedule. You, in interacting with your client, have to figure out how to make progress on these problems, and it's no longer the faculty or even our sense of what a correct performance measurement system or a correct budget is or whatever. It's really you and your client trying to figure out what can we do in this setting, what kind of information can we get, how do we move forward. And so that skill is at the heart of what we've been trying to work together on for this past year. And the evidence that you've learned how to do it just took place over the past couple of hours. Give yourself credit for how much you know and have some confidence that what you know is really important in acting as a professional. You also, incidentally, have picked up a fair amount of understanding of environmental problems. And so in addition to this general problem-solving skill and ability to work in groups and communicate that I believe you have, you've also developed some analytic tools and an in-depth understanding of this particularly important issue of environmental sustainability. And so I want to congratulate all of you on what I think was a spectacular set of briefings. And in many respects, I've always thought of this session as the real commencement for our program, because it's when we see what you are capable of doing. And year after year, I have to say, I get more impressed every year. And so I want to thank you because you have learned so much and impressed the faculty as well. So congratulations, and I'll see you at graduation.